The rain tapped softly against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Walker & Sons Architects, a gleaming tower in downtown Chicago. Inside, beneath a halo of white office light. Emma Walker, 27, stood still, tall, graceful, yet trembling inside. Her navy suit looked crisp, professional, but her eyes burning with disbelief. Across the wide mahogany desk sat Harold Walker, 61, founder of the firm, her father, the man who never raised his voice because he never had to. His gray suit, his polished cufflinks, his tone, calm, absolute. "Emma," he said, slowly exhaling, "this firm, it carries my name, and one day, your brother's." Her fingers clenched around the folder in her hand. "So, that's it?" she asked, her voice sharp, wounded, after 5 years of work, of sacrifice. "I still don't belong in the boardroom?" Harold leaned back, expression firm. "You've done well, sweetheart. But leadership isn't about sketches and late nights. It's about legacy, and Michael will carry that forward." Just then, the door opened. Michael Walker, 30, her older brother, sleeves rolled, shirt half-buttoned, phone still in his hand. He carried the careless confidence of someone who never earned what he had. "You called me, Dad?" he said, glancing at Emma with that easy smirk. Emma turned to him. "Perfect timing. Dad's just made it clear. You'll be running the firm." Michael blinked. "Guess it's my lucky day." Her jaw tightened. "You've been lucky your entire life." Harold raised his hand, calm, commanding. "Enough. This isn't a debate." Emma's voice softened, but her words cut deeper. "No, it never is. Not when the person arguing with you is your daughter." The silence that followed was heavy. Outside, the city kept moving. Headlights, rain, reflections on the glass, a world that didn't care who won or lost inside that office. Finally, Harold stood. "We'll announce Michael's promotion tomorrow." Emma blinked, her throat tight. "Congratulations, his brother," she said quietly, then turned and walked out. The hallway smelled faintly of cedar and coffee. Framed photographs lined the walls, her father shaking hands with mayors, cutting ribbons, moments she'd helped create, but never received credit for. She pushed through the glass doors, into the rain. Her phone buzzed. Sophie Lennon, 28, auburn hair, denim jacket, wild spirit, photographer, best friend. "Em, you sound like you're about to commit a felony," Sophie teased. Emma laughed bitterly. "Dad's giving the firm to Michael because he's a man." Sophie was quiet, then sighed. "You carried that company. They just don't deserve you." Emma looked up at the city lights. "Maybe I should have seen it coming." Sophie's tone softened. "Then come to Seattle. Fresh start. You love coffee and gray skies." Emma chuckled weakly. "Seattle, huh?" "You love a challenge," Sophie said. "So prove him wrong." That night, dinner at the Walker penthouse was painfully quiet. Elaine Walker, 58, elegant, gentle, tried to smooth things over. Her husband read the paper in silence. Michael bragged about new clients he hadn't met yet. Emma finally set down her fork. "You'll understand someday," Harold said without looking up. "A family business needs a strong heir." She stared at him. "It needs a capable one." Then she stood and walked out, heels striking the marble floor. In her room, the city lights flickered across the glass. A suitcase lay open on her bed. Folded clothes, a laptop, her MIT degree. Her reflection looked back, tired but resolute. A knock. Elaine peeked in, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're leaving?" Emma nodded. "Tomorrow. Where will you go?" "Seattle. Sophie's waiting." Her mother stepped closer. "Your father, he means well." Emma smiled faintly. "That's what everyone says, right before they break your heart." Elaine's eyes glistened. Please, be careful. I will, Emma said softly. But I can't stay here and keep losing myself. When the door closed, Emma sat in silence. Outside, thunder rolled across Lake Michigan. She looked once more at her desk. Blueprints, sketches, her first design award. Then she turned off the lamp. Tomorrow she would leave Chicago, and somewhere beneath another gray sky, she would start again. No father, no legacy, no approval. Just her, and the promise that she would never let anyone decide what a woman could build. The bus hissed as it pulled away, leaving Emma standing in the drizzle, 2 suitcases at her feet, and a future waiting in the fog. Seattle smelled different: rain, coffee, and the faint tang of ocean air. It was colder, quieter, but alive in a way Chicago never was. Emma Walker, 27, adjusted her beige trench coat and looked up at the gray skyline. Her breath turned to mist. She wasn't the daughter of a CEO here, just another stranger starting from zero. The apartment Sophie had found for her sat above a bookstore in Capitol Hill. Red brick walls, squeaky stairs, and a single window facing a narrow alley painted with reflections from neon cafe signs. The place was small, a little lonely, but it was hers. When Sophie Lennon arrived that evening, her auburn hair was wet, curls sticking to her cheeks. 28, free-spirited photographer, jeans torn, plaid shirt tied at the waist, a walking contrast to Emma's structured calm. She dropped her worn leather camera bag on the floor and grinned. "Welcome to the land of drizzle and caffeine addiction," she said, tossing Emma a steaming paper cup. Emma smiled faintly, taking a sip. "I can already feel my hair frizzing." Sophie laughed, collapsing onto the couch. "That's how you know you belong." For a while, the two sat in silence, listening to the rain tapping against the old glass. The city hummed softly outside, the sound of 1,000 lives crossing paths, none of them caring who Emma Walker used to be. "So," Sophie said finally, pulling her knees up, "have you sent out resumes?" "3 firms so far," Emma replied. "No calls yet." "Then we make our own luck," Sophie said, eyes bright. "You redesign my studio. It's chaos right now. We turn it into something bold, something new. People will notice." Emma tilted her head. "You're serious?" Sophie shrugged. "You help me get clients with style. I'll help you get your name out there. Win-win." That night, after Sophie left, Emma stood by the window, watching the raindrops race down the glass. She thought about Chicago, her father's cold voice, her brother's smug grin, and the heavy silence that followed her out of the house. Here, the silence felt different. Not punishment, but possibility. The next morning, she woke to gray light spilling through the curtains. Sophie's studio was a 15-minute walk away, an old warehouse converted into creative spaces. The hallway smelled like paint and ambition. Inside, the studio was exactly as promised, cluttered with tripods, canvases, half-empty coffee cups, and a giant roll of paper backdrops leaning against the wall. Sophie was kneeling near a tripod, muttering to herself. "This light is killing me," she groaned, adjusting the blinds. When she saw Emma, she waved a hand dramatically. "Architect, save me!" Emma laughed. "First we declutter, then we rebuild." "Bossy already," Sophie teased. Hours passed. Emma rolled up her sleeves, sketching on her tablet, shifting furniture, turning chaos into coherence. Her mind came alive again. Angles, textures, flow. By noon, sunlight pooled gently across the room, bouncing off fresh white panels. Sophie whistled. "Okay, this looks insane, in a good way." Emma smiled, a real smile this time. Sometimes it just takes a new frame. As they worked, a man entered. Liam Torres, 35, local gallery curator. Sharp navy coat, glasses, confident but soft-spoken. He carried a camera catalog under one arm. "Sorry," he said politely. "I was looking for Studio 3A." That's us, Sophie said quickly, brushing her hair aside. You must be Liam. He nodded, glancing around. You redesigned this space? Emma hesitated. Yes, just finished. He smiled, impressed. It's stunning, balanced, with warmth. I've been searching for someone to design our new exhibit layout downtown. Would you be open to discussing it? Emma blinked, caught off guard. You mean professionally? Of course, Liam said with a grin. Talent like this shouldn't stay hidden. After he left, Sophie squealed, spinning in a circle. See? Told you. Seattle likes you already. Emma sat, down, stunned but glowing. It's just a conversation, Sophie winked. Or it's the start of everything. That evening, Emma walked along Pike Place, the air rich with roasted beans and sea spray. Streetlights shimmered through puddles. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like she was running from something. She was running toward it. She paused by the water, phone in hand. No missed calls from Chicago, no messages from her father. She slipped the phone back into her coat and whispered to the waves, "That's okay. I'll build something better." As she walked home, the rain began again, soft, steady, forgiving. The morning air carried a misty chill, the kind that blurred the skyline of Seattle just enough to make the city feel like a dream. Emma Walker pulled her coat tighter and crossed the street toward Torres Gallery, a modern building of glass and concrete with ivy climbing its edges. Inside, the lights glowed warm and golden, and the faint echo of footsteps reminded her she was walking into something that mattered. Liam Torres, 35, composed, articulate, with an effortless calm, met her at the door. His navy coat was neatly pressed, his dark hair slightly tousled from the rain. "Emma," he said, smiling, "thank you for coming. I've been looking forward to this." She smiled softly, her voice low but steady. "So have I." He led her through the open gallery, walls half-painted, scaffolding against the far corner, a faint smell of plaster and possibility. "We're reimagining this space," Liam explained. "Our theme is transformation, art reborn through architecture." Emma nodded slowly. "Then it should breathe, not just stand." Liam turned, studying her with quiet admiration. "That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say." By noon, they were huddled over sketches and scale models. Emma's mind sparked alive, hands tracing invisible lines in the air as she described curves, sightlines, and light. Liam listened, not interrupting, not correcting, just absorbing her ideas. It was the first time in months she felt truly heard. When they finished, he leaned back. "You're hired," he said simply. Emma blinked. What?" Liam chuckled. "That was the interview." She laughed, shaking her head. "You're impossible," he smiled. "I'm decisive." Days turned into weeks. Emma threw herself into the project. Long nights, coffee-fueled mornings, designing between piles of sketches at Sophie's studio. Her designs were clean, fluid, bold. For the first time since leaving Chicago, her confidence felt like sunlight breaking through the clouds. One afternoon, Sophie burst into the studio holding her phone, eyes wide. "You're not going to like this," she said, tossing it onto the table. Emma frowned. "What is it?" Sophie pointed to the screen, a headline on the Seattle Tribune. "Walker and Sons expands to Seattle. Wins bid for waterfront complex." Emma froze. The article showed a photo of her father, Harold Walker, shaking hands with investors. Beside him, Michael stood smugly, his usual lazy grin turned into polished arrogance. Her pulse quickened. "They're here?" she whispered. Sophie nodded grimly. "Looks like they're building their first project outside Chicago. And guess where?" Emma stared, her voice barely a whisper. "The waterfront district. That's right next to Liam's project." That evening, she told Liam everything. The family firm, the argument, why she left. He listened quietly, leaning against the edge of his desk, the golden lamplight tracing his thoughtful expression. "So your father's company, they'll be our direct competition," he said finally. "Yes," Emma replied softly. "And they won't play fair." Liam's gaze softened. "Then we'll play better." In the weeks that followed, Seattle's design world buzzed with rumors, two firms vying for dominance, the old empire and the rising name. Emma noticed it first. Walker & Sons' new renderings mirrored her own ideas almost exactly. Subtle, but unmistakable. She clenched her fists. "Michael must have seen my old drafts before I left." Sophie noticed too. "They're copying you, Em. Shamelessly." "I know," Emma murmured, pacing, "but I can't call them out without proof." "Then outcreate them," Sophie said fiercely. "Beat them with brilliance." So Emma did. She redesigned everything. More open, more daring, light cascading like water through curved glass. She built in details that felt alive: movement, breath, emotion. Each night, as she watched her concepts come to life, she felt herself rising beyond anger. Still, there were nights she couldn't sleep. The thought of facing her father's firm, seeing Michael across a conference table, brought a pressure to her chest that felt like drowning, but she refused to run again. One late evening, Liam found her still working, sketches scattered everywhere. "Emma," he said gently, "you've done enough for tonight." She looked up, exhaustion softening her voice. "I can't lose to them. Not again." He stepped closer. "You're not the same person who left Chicago in tears." A pause, then, softly, "You're building something they can't control." Their eyes met. The air felt heavier, quieter. Emma smiled faintly. "You always know what to say." Liam smiled back. "Occupational hazard. I curate art, not people who doubt themselves." By the end of the month, the city council announced the design exhibition where both firms would present their final concepts. Two names stood on the list: Walker & Sons and EW Designs. Sophie framed the printed flyer and stuck it on the studio wall. "Looks like it's showtime," she said. Emma stared at the paper, her name standing beside her father's. For the first time, she didn't feel small. She felt ready. She looked out at the Seattle skyline, the rain streaking down like threads of silver. "Let's show them," she whispered. "Let's show them what I've become." The rain came harder that morning, sweeping across the Seattle streets like waves of silver light. Inside the grand exhibition hall, the air hummed with anticipation. Investors, architects, reporters, all waiting to witness the clash between Walker & Sons and EW Designs. Emma Walker, 27, stood before her presentation model, a breathtaking structure of glass and light shaped like rising wings. Her blazer fit perfectly, her posture unshakable, but deep inside, her heart raced in steady, thunderous beats. Across the hall, the familiar sight of Walker & Sons made her chest tighten. Her father, Harold Walker, 61, stood in his usual gray tailored suit, his posture straight, his expression carved from stone. He still commanded a room without saying a word. And beside him, Michael Walker, 30, charming, overconfident, rehearsing his lines with a smirk. Sophie Lennon, camera in hand, whispered near Emma's shoulder. "He looks like he's selling a luxury car, not architecture." Emma exhaled slowly. "He's selling an illusion." Liam Torres, 35, approached, his dark trench coat still damp from the rain, a quiet steadiness in his presence. "You ready?" he asked softly. Emma looked up at him, eyes sharp but warm. "I've been waiting for this since the day he said I wasn't enough." Liam smiled faintly. "Then let's make them remember your name." The loudspeaker crackled. "Walker & Sons will now begin their presentation." Michael strode onto the stage, his suit navy blue, his tie too perfect. The screen behind him flashed with images of a modern waterfront complex. elegant, symmetrical, and painfully familiar. Our design, he began confidently, embodies transparency, flow, and connection, creating harmony between architecture and the human spirit. Emma froze. Every phrase, every angle, mirrored her own philosophy. Her stomach turned. He stole it. From the audience, Harold nodded approvingly, his hands clasped behind his back. Sophie whispered through gritted teeth, "That's your concept." "I know," Emma murmured, jaw tightening. But let him finish. Michael ended his speech with a shallow smile and a bow. Applause followed, polite, hollow, the kind people give power, not passion. Then came the voice, "Next, EW Designs." Emma stepped forward. Her heels echoed on the wooden stage, each click a heartbeat. The light shifted, casting a soft glow across her model. She turned toward the crowd, her voice steady, clear, calm. "When I left Chicago," she began, "I left behind a name, but not a dream." She paused. Let the silence breathe. "This design isn't about walls or roofs. It's about resilience, the courage to grow beyond the foundations others build for us." A murmur swept through the audience. Cameras flashed. Emma continued, her gestures graceful, deliberate. "This space is not meant to impress. It's meant to heal. A place where people feel seen, not just housed." She stepped aside, letting the light play across the glass structure. Architecture should not be a monument to ego, but a bridge to empathy. Her words hung in the air, raw, quiet, powerful. In the front row, Harold's face tightened, but his eyes betrayed something else. Pride, maybe. Regret, perhaps. Emma met his gaze, and for a moment, they were just father and daughter again, separated not by anger, but by years of silence. She turned back to the crowd. "We call this design rebirth, because sometimes you have to lose everything to build something worth living for." When she stepped back, the applause came, not polite this time, but thunderous, rising like rain against glass. Sophie whooped behind her, tears glimmering in her eyes. Liam smiled, slow, proud, almost speechless. Michael looked pale. His voice cracked as he tried to defend Walker & Son's proposal during the Q&A, but every answer exposed how shallow it truly was. The investors noticed. The audience shifted. The energy changed. By the end of the event, the winner was clear: EW Designs. Reporters swarmed Emma, cameras flashing like lightning. But through the noise, her eyes found Harold's across the room. He stood still, then gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. It wasn't surrender. It was acknowledgement. Emma felt something inside her loosen. Not victory, but peace. Later that evening, as the rain softened outside, Sophie lifted her camera. "Smile, boss," she said playfully. Emma laughed, exhaustion melting into relief. Liam handed her a cup of coffee, voice low. "You didn't just win a project," he said. "You reclaimed your story." She looked toward the window, the city lights glimmering through the mist. "Maybe," she whispered, "but this time, I built it my way." The sky above Seattle was pale gold that morning, sunlight breaking through after days of rain, soft, warm, forgiving. Inside EW Designs, laughter drifted through the air, printers hummed, and someone played a quiet jazz tune in the background. The whole place felt alive again. Emma Walker, 27, leaned against her desk, coffee in hand, eyes distant. The project had gone viral. The phone kept ringing. Reporters wanted interviews. Clients wanted meetings. But inside, she felt something missing. A soft knock on the glass door broke the stillness. Liam Torres, 35, white shirt, sleeves rolled, calm in every motion, stood there with that easy half-smile. "You've had that same expression for 10 minutes, he said. Emma blinked, smiled faintly. just wondering, what comes after proving your point? He stepped closer, voice low. You start living for yourself, not against someone else. Before she could answer, Sophie's voice called from the hall, bright, teasing. Em, you've got a visitor. Emma turned, and the world went still. In the doorway stood Harold Walker, 61, her father, the man she had fought, hated, missed, his hat in hand, his tie slightly loosened. He looked older, smaller, but more human. Dad, she whispered. He gave a faint nod. You've built something beautiful here. His tone was soft, uncertain, almost gentle. Sophie caught the tension instantly. I'll, give you two a minute. Liam followed, giving Emma one last glance of quiet reassurance, before the door clicked shut. Emma's voice trembled just slightly. I didn't think I'd ever see you here. I wasn't sure I'd have the right, he said. He walked around slowly, eyes tracing the sketches pinned on the wall, the models, the awards. I watched your presentation. Twice. Emma frowned softly. Twice? He smiled, the smallest, most fragile smile. I wanted to understand what I'd missed all these years. Silence lingered. Then Harold spoke again, his voice rough around the edges. I spent my life thinking legacy meant keeping control, but you showed me that real legacy means letting go. Emma blinked back a tear. You made it really hard to leave. I know, he whispered, and I made it even harder to come back. He took a slow breath. I'm not here to talk business or titles or the firm. I'm here for one reason. To say, I'm proud of you, Emma. The words struck deeper than she expected. She tried to answer, but her throat closed around the sound. Her eyes burned. Harold smiled faintly. Your mother always said I'd say that one day. Emma laughed softly through the ache. Mom was always an optimist. He nodded. She was right. You were right. He reached into his jacket and handed her a small envelope. Inside, a single sheet of paper, her name, printed under Walker & Sons, consultant partner. Her breath caught. Dad? He lifted a hand. Not to control it, not to own it. Just to be part of it, if you ever want to. Emma looked up, voice shaking with warmth. You'd really do that? He nodded. It's long overdue. Outside the glass wall, Sophie whispered to Liam, peeking in. He's actually crying. Liam smiled softly. She earned that. Sophie grinned. Took a whole city to fix one stubborn man. Inside, Harold stood, ready to leave. But Emma stopped him with a quiet word. Dad, stay for coffee. He hesitated, then smiled. I'd like that. Minutes later, they sat by the window, 2 cups steaming between them. They didn't talk about work. They talked about her mother's garden, about the first model Emma built from cereal boxes, about time lost, and time regained. When he finally rose to go, the light outside had turned honey gold. I'll see you soon, he said softly. Emma smiled. Next time I'll show you the new design. He touched her shoulder, just once, then left. She stood there for a moment, heart full, eyes bright. When Sophie and Liam came back, Sophie's grin was wide. So, peace treaty signed? Emma laughed, wiping her eyes. Something like that. Liam raised his cup. To building what matters. She clinked hers gently. To building better. Outside, Seattle glowed under the evening light, reflections dancing on wet streets. And for the first time, Emma didn't feel like she was proving anything. She was simply living the life she had designed from the ground up.